Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing and victorious day it is. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back. Hopefully, your rest was outstanding and you accomplished everything you set your mind to today. We got some good news coming out of the DC District 2 courts. We're going to talk about two opinions that have just dropped, one fresh out of the oven, and we're live across the board. It's a beautiful day, my friends. So, two decisions we're going to talk about that came out of DC. One is from Judge Chutkan. Judge Chutkan, of course, is the case that we heard yesterday brought by a bunch of different states. State of New Mexico and about a dozen other states sued. They wanted Elon Musk to be enjoined from doing basically anything and everything. And Judge Chutkan came back down and said, hello, you guys, you attorney generals are not that bright. Not going to win this one. So we'll read through that. And then simultaneously, we had another order that came down, also out of the District of Columbia, the DC Circuit. You see, this was brought by students suing the Department of Education, and they lost this one too. So this is their complaint. We also saw the judge came back down. He issued an opinion here. The judge's name is Randolph D. Moss. And again, the TRO was denied. So two of these, we're going to explain exactly what happened, what that means, and how this might impact the other TROs, because we're now starting to stack up some wins here, right? Right after Trump started signing these orders, a bunch of the lefty judges made it so these things would just fly right through. But now Trump's had his DOJ come in. Pam Bondi is now official, and we're seeing some real response. And she also submitted another letter in notifying all of the other cases about these developments. So we got that. I've got a ton of clips, including from this guy, Mark Elias. Remember him from Democracy Docket? So he's out here talking. I think that's with Brian Tyler Cohen. I think that's who that is, who's going to be taking over a lot of the social media, I read, for the Democrats. So we got him, and then reaction from Burchett, Kennedy, and others coming up. Before we talk about what's going on with the DOJ and the special counsel, because the Supreme Court has now ordered the special counsel, Hampton Dellinger, to respond to Trump's application to the Supreme Court, which means this thing is moving forward. So we'll talk about that. We see another DOJ prosecutor resigned, and a bunch of these weirdos signed one of these letters. Look at all these people. They're like, we used to work for the government, so therefore our opinion matters. So they all signed this letter, sent that in, and it's not going to mean a dang thing, but I'll show you why you should disregard this entire letter. Every single person who signed this letter, in my opinion, has tainted themselves because of one other person who also signed this letter, which basically poisons the whole pot. So we'll take a look at what they're trying to do, but they are out of options. They're like, I don't know. What should we do? Let's sign a letter, because that helped us rig the last election. So maybe 51, remember those idiots who signed that letter? Okay. Then we'll see what's going on with Elon, because in the Chutkan case, remember, Chutkan wanted to know, well, who is Elon, like officially? Like, what does he do? Is he like appointed, or is he like Jack Smith, like not even a real boy? What is he? What's his position? And we've analogized it to the chief of staff, right? This is somebody who's not appointed by anybody, but who carries a lot of implied power, because they're like the oil in the gears of the executive branch. They help facilitate a bunch of stuff getting done, right? Chief of staff, every president has had that. You also can analogize it to the president's wife, who also advises and does a bunch of things. Senior advisors, it's not an uncommon thing. And so we'll learn what Elon's official role is, because there was a declaration submitted into the court, into Judge Chutkan's courtroom, and this will have some consequence, because this is what will be the platform for all of the other cases. So we'll see what's going on in that one. And then again, I wanted to share with you kind of a smattering of reaction, including an excerpt that came from the trial transcripts yesterday. Kyle Cheney, he reports for Politico. And he was explaining that this one judge, Judge Reyes, was lacing in to the Trump DOJ about some of the transgender stuff. You know how irritated that makes them. So we'll talk about that. We'll see what she was so mad about. Before we get reaction, this was Stephen Miller obliterating this woman on CNN who was trying to, again, hyperventilate over these cuts. You know, like a lot of people are going to die and all these things. So bunch of reaction on that. We got Norm Eisen coming up. Man, one of the worst guys out there, was trying to play patty cake with Jen Psaki yesterday on MSNBC's hit show. You know the name. So we'll, of course, come back on that. We'll see what the 60 Minutes dude was complaining about. The View's having a meltdown and plenty more. And so it's a beautiful day. Very glad that you're here and with us. Happy Tuesday. Hopefully you're having tacos or something fun tonight. But I want to remind you, if you haven't already joined as a member, we'd love to have you become one. We had a great members only stream this morning. We have great Saturday member streams. We try to deliver for our members, and we have a great community there. So it's a great way to support the show. We'd love to see you there. Join us as a member. Click the YouTube join button or go to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Sign up. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only morning stream. All right, so let's get into the business on the day, because here is some good news from the president, for the president and for America. DOGE wins again, twice again, actually. We've got 2 orders now that have come out of the District of Columbia saying that the requests for the TROs, the requests by the liberal groups, in this case, the state of New Mexico, plus a bunch of other blue states like Arizona, Chris Mays, gag me. She, of course, joined in on this. They were trying to stop Elon, and we read through the hearing excerpts courtesy of Margot Cleveland. We read through the briefings, the complaint brought by the state, and now they lose. And this is only one. There's 2 losses that they had to suffer today. But let's refresh our memory. Who are the people involved in this first matter that we'll talk about? Well, again, it was New Mexico, 13 states plus New Mexico, total of 14. This was Michelle Lujan, governor of New Mexico, who tried to ban everybody's Second Amendment rights with the stroke of a pen via executive order, because she was like, I'm tired of kids dying. So everybody's rights are gone immediately because whatever. So they sued. They were a bunch of AGs, and this landed in Judge Tanya Chutkan's courtroom. This was an Obama appointee, same judge who beat the hell out of the J6ers and who tried to, in my opinion, incriminate President Trump before the election because she is or was engaging in a political operation being conducted by the Democrats. But that all failed. And so now she got this other case again. We're like, oh, great. Judge Chutkan, what's she going to do once she gets a TRO opportunity in front of her? Well, she found against the states. Here's why. Judge Chutkan wrote this. She says, all right, listen, plaintiff, 14 states who came in through their attorneys general, most of them morons, have filed an emergency motion for a TRO. They said, our states are going to die because Elon. So based on the briefings, Judge Chutkan says the states have not even carried their burden. Hello, they're not going to suffer imminent irreparable harm. Absent this order, they're going to be fine. And so therefore, their motion is denied by Chris Mays. On January 20th, Trump established the Department of Government Efficiency and a subsidiary organization called the U.S. DOGE Temporary Service Organization, collectively called DOGE here. Now, I want to point this out here. A federal judge is officially acknowledging the creation of DOGE. So every time, as we'll look at, some lefty group submits a complaint and they call it right here. You see this a lot, even in articles. You see the journos who are still so sour about all this. They'll write so-called, right there. It's this so-called DOGE department because they're so bitter and cranky, but they'll write that they're so-called, right? All right. Well, it's official. Judge Chutkan even agrees. Elon Musk directs the work of the DOGE personnel, directs it, but is formally classified as a special government employee. Now, the states, all the blue states, brought this action for declaratory and injunctive relief. They wanted to stop Musk from doing things. They said he's not a real boy. He should have been appointed under the U.S. Constitution. He has not been nominated or confirmed by the Senate as an officer of the United States, right? This is a very familiar argument to us here because Jack Smith, who was definitely not a real boy, was illegitimate, right? And they're saying, well, Elon Musk is kind of exercising the same power. But remember, Elon Musk is not a special counsel. He's not subpoenaing anybody. He's not prosecuting anything. He's not in charge, officially of like these agencies. He's just a liaison, as we'll find out. So it's different, right? So it's a different argument. So they're trying that. Like, oh, Trump won on that, so let's try that here. They say that Musk and DOGE lack statutory authority for their actions, right? And DOGE was created before it was called DOGE by Obama. Now, plaintiffs, the states allege, they say, well, Musk exercises, they say, virtually unchecked power across the presidential branch, the executive branch, making decisions about expenditures, contracts, property, regs, and even the very existence of federal agencies. How can one man have so much power? They claim that in the last few weeks, Musk and DOGE have gained access, right? They keep saying to sensitive data, which is evidence of their corruption, information systems that they've been rigging, and technological and financial infrastructure that they've set up for themselves across the federal government. We know. They say Trump and Elon have allegedly used this unfettered access and authority to terminate personnel, place entire agencies on temporary leave, transfer data to outside servers. This is what their allegations are, right? Allegedly, taken over physical office spaces, kicked out USAID, we saw that happen, and terminate contracts valued in the hundreds of millions of dollars, hopefully billions. Now, defendants, Trump and Elon, concede that there is no apparent source of legal authority granting Musk or DOGE the power to order personnel actions at federal agencies, but do not deny that defendants are taking such actions, right? So Trump is saying, we're doing all of this. And we're not even saying that Elon has direct power to do it. We're not even saying that at all. Saying on February 14th, the states moved for a TRO to try to stop 11 categories of conduct by Musk and DOGE, right? It was wild. They stop everything. You have to go to bed by 8 p.m. Make sure your bed's made, brush your teeth, do all these things, call us in the morning to let us know you're starting your work. You're like, what? You guys run the government now? They can't fire anybody, hire anybody, make any decisions, even look at the spreadsheets is what you're so paranoid about. So that day they filed, right? The court held a hearing during which the states significantly narrowed the scope of their relief. They're like, oh yeah, I guess we can't really order him to bed at 8 o'clock. So maybe we'll revise that. It's okay. You can set your own bedtime, but we're still not going to allow you to do this. Now at the court's request, they then revised a proposed TRO, right? So the court is again nudging them, hey, morons, I can't do this. So can you change this a little bit? Poking them. Go. No, change that. Which asks the court to then, third draft at this point, enjoin Musk and DOGE, right? They say stop them. They want them to stop getting the data because the data shows the corruption and then they can inform the president or the agency heads about the corruption and they'll make decisions. So don't let them see the spreadsheets. Don't let them look at the QuickBooks, okay? Don't let them in there. Office of OPM, Department of Education, Health and Human Services, Energy, Commerce, and other things, right? Don't let them inside the files. If they see what we were sending in our emails, we're all going down. Terminating or otherwise placing anyone on leave, right? And this was the scope of their original order. Look how broad this was. You can't do anything. You're done because a bunch of blue AGs are upset about it. So Judge Chutkan, remember her, she writes, look, they want us to basically stop everything. And they're claiming that there's going to be all of these damages. But look, a temporary restraining order is an extraordinary remedy that should only be granted when the party seeking relief, in this case, the blue states, carry their burden of persuasion. Now, a party seeking this must establish the four things that come up a bunch here that I should work on remembering. He is likely to succeed on the merits, okay? He is likely to suffer irreparable harm. He balances the equities and it's in the public interest. And remember, we had a little brain flub on that one yesterday. Thank you, Judge Chutkan, for refreshing our recollection on those. So those four things, and she's going to give us the analysis on all four of those. Now, she tells us the court's analysis is going to begin and end with irreparable harm. That's all we need to talk about because it's a threshold issue and a requirement in granting temporary injunctive relief. We got to get past that. The other three factors don't matter if this fourth one doesn't get met. So, to show irreparable harm, the injury alleged must be both certain and great, right? She's citing this is what the rule is. Actual and not theoretical. It needs to be beyond remediation. There's nothing else we can do to fix this. And it needs to be so imminent that there is a clear and present need for this type of relief, right? Forcing Trump to do something, basically the judge taking over control of the executive branch. She says, we just decided that in 2021. So the possibility, if it's just possible, that's not enough. A plaintiff must demonstrate, in this case, the states, this is Chutkan writing, a clear and present need for extraordinary equitable relief to prevent harm. Extraordinary need. If a party fails to make that showing, you have to deny it. Now, on the record, Judge Chutkan says, from what I've seen, the court cannot conclude that the states satisfy the high standard for irreparable injury, okay? We know that Chris Mays and the rest of them are all going to be crying about this. We're dying right now. No, you're not. Calm down. Even Judge Chutkan says it. Relax. Plaintiffs, they say the state's declarations are replete with assertions. They say, if Musk does this, if they cancel, if they pause, if they significantly reduce, then we're going to suffer extreme financial and programmatic harm. And they wrote all this in their whiny declarations. They say here, Judge Chutkan says, if right there, oops. If the actions of DOGE led by Elon cancel our contracts, Washington state won't be able to uphold its legal commitments to its residents. Well, maybe you shouldn't have made those stupid laws in place. How about that? Upon information and belief, another declaration, this one came from Sarita. She says, well, New Mexico is going to be injured. Upon information, it says, if labor's sensitive data is compromised, if it is, the state of New Mexico would be vulnerable to embezzlement, maybe, and cyber theft, and ransom attacks, and other financial crime, blah, blah, blah. Okay, stop your hystericism, okay? It's fairy tale time with Sarita. Take your stories and save them for your kids. If existing programs are canceled, another one, this one comes from Wayne, also from New Mexico. If these are canceled, or federal workers administering these are terminated, well, New Mexico is not going to be able to receive reimbursements. Well, why are you giving out the money in the first place? Stop giving the money out. Where's it going? To illegals? Connecticut's Department of Social Services funding is also potentially, they got sneaky. Okay, so these three examples had if. Judge Chutkan did a control F. She's like, okay, if. She's like, wow, there's a lot of options there. She read through, good job, Judge, and they changed it to potentially. Very sneaky lawyering there. Jeffrey R. Beckham. Didn't want to make it so contingent. Smart. Busted. Okay, it's all hypothetical. So stop your crying about something that hasn't happened yet. The court is aware, says Chutkan, that DOJ's unpredictable actions have resulted in considerable uncertainty and confusion for plaintiffs and many of their agencies and residents. And by the way, this doesn't hold so much anymore. Okay, it was confusing and there were times were uncertain, like during the first week. But we're in almost a month of this. So if you're still sitting there, like if you're in the IRS and you're out there and you're like, oh, I'm just going to audit some more right-wing groups again. Maybe Pete Hegseth deserves a little audit here. Some IRS hack. And DOGE comes bursting through the wall like the Kool-Aid guy. Don't be surprised, okay? It's been happening for a month now. So what are you so shocked about? Relax. Should have started your resume a while ago. When you know they're like the Grim Reaper in that meme, going from door to door to door, okay? U.S. aid was first. Treasury's coming next. Social Security's on the line. We're coming everywhere. So don't be so surprised, all right? Spare us the theatrics. But the possibility that Trump and Elon may take actions is not enough, whiners. It is still uncertain when and how the catalog of state programs that the states identify will suffer. Right now, and again, the next point is obviously, well, if they do make some changes, then can the states come back and file a claim? Yeah, right. And that would be more appropriate. Say this has been the actual harm. These are the things that Elon has done that is causing irreparable injury specifically, and come file your claim when that happens, which is also going to be a joke of a claim because they're going to say he's got no authority to do this, and he does. Chutkan continues. She says, when litigants have identified specific individuals or programs, courts have appropriately tailored TROs, but that hasn't happened yet. For example, she's citing these other ones, and this was the other case that hasn't been reported yet from February 13th, right? This judge made him put up the trans website pages back online. Said, oh no, doctors are relying on this. They don't know where to cut. So they might cut off the wrong thing, so put that back online because these doctors are flying blind without their website. So that judge ordered the website back on. Here was another one, granting the blanket suspension of foreign aid. Another hack judge. That was Carl Nichols, I believe. Also in D.C., saying Rubio's not in charge of the State Department anymore. Great. Now, conversely, when litigants have failed to show imminent harm, courts in this district have refused to issue TROs. Other cases, right? Mere access to personnel data who are not formally authorized to view it without more creates an irreparable injury, denying that one because that was their argument. So they didn't get that successful. So now with all of that precedent set, Judge Chutkan tells us the states, with all of that being said, they come to me, this court, and they ask this court to take judicial notice of widespread media reports. Like I'm just supposed to read and believe whatever the Washington Post is reporting, saying that DOGE has taken or will soon take certain actions like mass terminations. But these reports cannot substitute for what the law requires, which is a specific facts alleged in an affidavit or a complaint that clearly show the immediate and irreparable injury, loss, or damage that will result. Now, this court may take judicial notice of this, of news articles, like they exist, that's fine. But I'm glad that they exist, but I can't believe that they're true. I'm not going to accept them for the truth of the statements they're in. Like that's not a substitute for evidence because some journalist wrote about it. Put it in an affidavit and swear to it so I can haul that person in here and ask them questions. And even if the court could appropriately consider the news reports that because remember during the hearing, the guy was like waving the Washington Post around. It's like, yeah, look, they wrote about it. She's like, I don't care, your stupid magazine. Even if the court could appropriately could consider that, it's a vague representation, along with Trump's vague representation that, yeah, we did terminate a number of people last week. That's not going to cure your deficiencies. So the states were saying, Your Honor, look, they're even admitting they're firing a bunch of people. And in the hearing, the judge was like, how many people have you fired? He's like, I don't know. You don't know? No. Shouldn't you know? No, it's not relevant to you or to this case at all. If we want to fire 1,000 people or 10,000 people, that's our prerogative. Constitutionally, we're allowed to do that. So take it up with someone else, unless you've got some basis why we can't do that. And all of these judges, not all of them, but many of these judges have just been using this as an opportunity to opine from the bench about their fury with what Trump is doing. But that doesn't matter. They can be mad about that. The law is the law. Now, terminating thousands of employees may cause extreme harm to individual employees and potentially the institution writ large. Yeah, that's kind of the point, right? Not harm per se, but it is harmful to the country, right? It's not healthy for this behavior to continue. So we have to rein it in. But they say, but harm, right? And it's what I say, they say it's harmful. It's like, not really. It's might be specifically harmful to them, but the executive branch doesn't exist to serve the executive branch employees. It exists to serve the American people. So we have to make trade-offs. This is a positive trade-off, all said and done. But harm, says Judge Chutkan, harm that might befall unnamed third parties, like random people the state says, we're going to be injured, does not satisfy the irreparable harm requirement. It has to be connected specifically to the parties before the court. And the states have not adequately linked Trump and Elon's actions to any imminent harm that the states have in particular. Now, that being said, Judge Chutkan says, the states do raise a very colorable appointments clause claim with serious implications. And so this is where she's going to throw her little opinion in. Musk has not been nominated by the president, nor confirmed by the Senate, as constitutionally required for officers who exercise significant authority pursuant to the laws of the United States. Bypassing this safeguard of this constitutional scheme, they say, Musk has rapidly taken steps to fundamentally reshape the executive branch. He's like a consultant. The people who are in charge of those agencies are taking those decisions with the lawful power to do that. Even Trump concedes there is no apparent, quote, source of legal authority, granting DOGE the power. I like how she just cuts that off. Nice little selective quote there, Judge. What do you? Source of legal authority granting DOGE the power to what? She says, to take some of the actions challenged here. Thanks for substituting the most important part of the sentence with your own words, Judge. Thank you. Accepting plaintiff and the state's allegations is true. They say Trump and Elon's actions are thus precisely the executive abuses the Appointments Clause seeks to prevent. But even a strong merits argument cannot secure a TRO at this juncture. So she says, even if you're right, we'll deal with that later. It's not enough here because a TRO requires a very elevated showing of imminent harm. So plaintiffs, the states, she writes, right, this is her little final word, they legitimately call into question what appears to be the unchecked authority of an unelected individual. Like, give me a break. What was Hunter Biden doing in the White House with Joe? Crackhead Joe in there, getting him to sign pardons for his whole family. Where were you guys upset crying about Dr. Jill sitting in the Oval Office desk or Air Force One's chair, acting as acting president, right? Unchecked authority of an unelected individual. They were running the country. And you guys just sat there and tried to take out Trump, Judge. So give me a break. And an entity was not created by Congress and over which it has no oversight. Well, Obama, it was an Obama agency called the DS, or the Digital Selective Service, something like that. It must be indisputable that this court acts within the bounds of its authority, and accordingly, it cannot issue a TRO, especially one as wide-ranging as the states want, which would basically limit Elon from doing anything and DOGE from doing anything. And so the record does not meet that standard. Signed by Tanya Chutkan. Before that, though, she says, and so for the reasons explained, it is hereby ordered that the states, all the blue states, and their pathetic request for a TRO is denied. States lose. Sorry, Chris Mays, read it and weep. It is further ordered that the parties shall meet and confer about further proceedings. If the states intend to move for a preliminary injunction, the parties shall file a proposed briefing schedule, state their positions on consolidating these later down the line on February 19th, 2025. Signed by Judge Tanya Chutkan, the same judge who was a disaster for the country when she tried to race through Trump's January 6th case before the Supreme Court took it away from her. She was doing everything possible to try to get that on the books because she knew she could have gotten him convicted in there in D.C. because it's 93% Democrats. So we are still mad at Tanya Chutkan, and what she did was unforgivable, but this was a good decision in that it was the right outcome. She still couldn't set it aside and had to put in there her final little dicta to make her point, but it was the right decision. We're happy to see it. Now, we also had a very similar decision that came out in this case. In the District of Columbia, DOGE and Team Trump wins again. You can see this lawsuit was brought by the University of California, the Students Association, and versus Denise Carter and the U.S. Department of Education as the defendants sued here. And this is a DOGE lawsuit, as we'll see. They're suing Department of Ed because they're trying to prophylactically get ahead of Elon's bureaucracy Grim Reaper going door to door to door. They're down the line. They're like, he's coming, file, file, file. And so they filed this one a while back, but we just got an order for it. And so here is what the complaint says. All these students, they say, we want you, Judge, in the District of Columbia to stop Elon. Halt the unlawful, ongoing, systematic, and continuous disclosure of personal info from the Education Department over to DOGE. They say more than 42 million people, or 12% of the population, have federal student loans. It's a lot. And for each of these borrowers, they get all sorts of information, like they have their social, their date of birth, and more. Education also stores this personal information, and they collect all sorts of information, right? Your master promissory note. Many of us know what that process looks like, and they have a giant database. And so people come and they ask for money from the federal government. They disclose a bunch of things like, why do you need the money? Well, now DOGE is coming in and they're trying to access education system. And that data has 42 million people in there. And DOGE and their affiliated people have no assurances that their sensitive information of their parents and spouses aren't going to be abused because their actions are shrouded in secrecy. And individuals don't even have basic information about what Elon and I guess the Department of Education are sharing with outside parties. And I think what's pretty flawed in this complaint is they're not suing Elon. They're suing the Department of Education to stop her from transferring information out. And so what is their power to do that? Let's see if they articulate that for us. So the parties, of course, are the students. They say, yeah, education, the Department of Ed are responsible for managing the system. Student aid is owned by the federal government. All these rules exist. Oh, it's a privacy act. It requires entities to disclose when other people are entering the system, and the National Student Loan Database might have a bunch of information in there, like all of that stuff, and people might access that. So it's a privacy lawsuit, essentially. So they tell us that this is, okay, count one, contrary to the law. So the APA, IRS, and other various statutes say you can't do any of this stuff. So please stop Elon or anyone, any DOGE affiliated individuals from viewing any of these records, and stop Elon from permitting access, and stop DOGE, right, from disseminating any of this. Ensure that they don't disclose any of this, recover any records that they got, and give us attorney's fees. Signed by Adam Pulver with the Public Citizen Litigation Group, which I think we've seen that name before, sent in to stop DOGE. Now, that was submitted earlier this month, but the court just came out and issued a ruling, and the students lose. DOGE wins. Here's why. The court ruled out of DC, the district court, says, look, the students sued us, and they moved for an order that would stop education and the secretary, called Denise Carter, acting, from disclosing information to DOGE. You can't give them the spreadsheets. The students also state that an order should be issued that requires education to safeguard any other information that DOGE already got. Now, the judge from Washington, D.C. says, for the reasons that follow, the court will deny the students' motion. Here's why. Each year, Congress provides billions of dollars through loan and grant programs to help pay for students' tuition. The Department of Education administers these programs, and they do require a lot of information in order to get those loans. Now, as a federal agency, education is subject to the Privacy Act and IRS regs. Under the Privacy Act, agencies may not disclose any record to any person or to another agency unless the individual consents or an exception applies. So when we get into this privacy stuff, right? Yeah, my right to privacy. As relevant here, one statutory exception, permits disclosure to officers and employees of the agency which maintains the record who have a need for the record in the performance of their duties. Exceptions. They forgot about those. Another, and that's cited here in the U.S. Code, Section 552A(b)(1) in Title V. Another exception permits disclosure for routine use, which refers to the use of a record for a purpose which is compatible with the purpose for which the record was collected. Now, to invoke this exception, an agency must publish notice of the asserted routine use in the Federal Register along with federal categories of purpose and use. Now, Education Department, they did that. They published, quote, routine uses that are applicable to various databases, which do in fact permit certain disclosures. You can see this one, 89 Federal Regulations 44652, May 21st, 2024, under Joe Biden. Says, for example, education may disclose records in the student database, loan database, to other federal agencies for routine uses. Oh no. Including to support auditors and program reviewers of the student aid programs. Also, to assist program administrators with tracking refunds and discharges, and to support the investigation of fraud or abuse, or to detect and prevent fraud and abuse. Wow. So even Joe Biden's rules, that they passed in May 2024 say you can do all of those things. Isn't that fun? But they sued anyways. Now, the Privacy Act, says this judge, authorizes both criminal penalties and private enforcement for violation. So if you, Rob, have your information leaked or stolen or abused, I can sue specifically. I have a cause of action if that happens. And if any officer or employee of any agency, so anybody in DOGE, anybody in education, anybody in Treasury, if they access the records and they disclose it, they shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. There's already criminal statutes that exist to penalize this. And in addition, although individual government employees are not subject to civil suits for damages, you can sue an agency for failing to comply if that happens. Now, like the Privacy Act, also, the IRS code also controls disclosure of information outside the government. Section 6103 of the IRS code says that as a general rule, the information shall be confidential. However, upon request of the Secretary of Education, the IRS may disclose an individual's return information to, quote, any authorized person, but only for the specified purposes. And so we know that many of those purposes are broad: reducing net cost of improper payments, oversight activities by the OIG or Department of Ed, and more. And so to enforce these limits, the Internal Revenue Code also provides criminal penalty. Okay, if you break the law, go to jail. So here's what happened. On the day of his inauguration, President Trump issued an executive order. It was called the DOGE order, epic. The executive order did three things, writes this DC judge. First, it renamed the United States Digital Service, which was created under Obama, to the DOGE service, okay? And they kept the same acronym. USDS is still USDS. It's just not digital service, it's DOGE service. And established it. Second, it established a temporary organization under U.S. code entitled the DOGE Service Temporary Org. The executive order provides that there shall be a DOGE administrator established in the executive office of the presidency, charged with heading the DOGE Service Temporary Organization for its 18 months. Pursuant to the law, the head of the DOGE Temp Org may appoint persons to be employees in the temporary organization as required for their skills. So we rename the DOGE service, the digital service, into the DOGE service. Then we create some structure like an organizational chart and set an expiration date in 18 months. Then they created the DOGE teams pursuant to the executive order. The order required each executive agency head to establish in their agency a DOGE team, which will typically include one DOGE team lead, one engineer, one human resource specialist, and one attorney. So all of the agencies will create a team to interface with DOGE. Now, according to the executive order, DOGE's purpose is to improve the quality and efficiency of the government-wide software, network infrastructure, and IT systems. Now, to that end, the executive order also directs agency heads to coordinate with DOGE to the maximum extent consistent with the law. So don't do anything, agency, that violates your own laws. You know your laws, so create a team to interface with DOGE, but follow the laws. And make sure that DOGE has full and prompt access to all unclassified agency records as required. Now, since his inauguration, however, Trump has not formally identified the individual who would serve as the DOGE administrator, is what the complaint says. Okay, that's what the student said. So, following the issuance of the executive order, DOGE began hiring new employees and working with agencies, including education. There are currently at least, quote, 6 individuals at DOGE, all federal employees assisting with implementing the executive order as part of DOGE's education team. According to this person called Adam Ramada, a DOGE employee, education is the home agency of 2 of these employees, and the others, including Ramada, are on detail to the department. Ramada said that he and one other employee are also on detail from DOGE. The 2 other employees are on detail from federal agencies. Ramada further says He spends 50 to 60 hours per week working at department facilities, as do 2 other employees whose home agency is the department. Of the other detailed employees, 2 spend 20 to 30 hours per week at the department, and the last spends 5 hours per week over there. According to Ramada, all 6 employees assist with auditing fraud, waste, and abuse. They help leadership get analytics and data. He further avers that he is unaware of any DOGE-affiliated individual other than these 6 people who've been given access to the systems. Now, to date, Ramada, the 6 DOGE employees, have primarily worked to identify contracts and grants that are wasteful and opposed to Trump's policies. All but 1 of the employees has completed ethics and information security trainings. The 6th employee has been directed to complete those trainings this week. Now, lots there. News reports, says this judge, of DOGE staffers and their access to student data prompted the students to sue here, as well as an emergency motion for a restraining order. UCSA is a nonprofit organization, as we know, that has 230,000 students from California, 9 undergraduate campuses, right? Big lefty organization, no doubt. More than 70% of their members receive federal financial aid, of course, administered by the Department of Ed, which means that those members have shared interest and a significant amount of personal information with the Department of Education. And they say, if DOGE gets access, we're going to be denied our privacy rights. So DOGE can't actually see those things is what they want. So the students seek an emergency order stopping education from sharing the data, and they want a retrieval of all the data that's already been shared. Now, the students assert APA, Administrative Procedure Act, privacy, and IRS, saying that these are the various laws that have been violated. We're suffering and we're going to suffer irreparable injury. So we need this judge to do something. So now that we know the background, the judge tells us a temporary restraining order is an extraordinary form of relief. It's analyzed using the same 4 factors, and it may be awarded only upon a clear showing that they're entitled to relief. Here are the 4 TRO factors. Let's program it in our memory banks again. It's likely to succeed on the merits. Irreparable harm if we don't do something. The balance of the equities, and it's in the public interest. So although the students has the burden to show this, we always have to consider irreparable harm. And so the court starts by that. Was or will there be irreparable harm? And because the court concludes that the students' organization has failed to clear that hurdle, we're also going to stop there. We're going to leave for another day, whether there is even standing here to sue, whether they should even be suing here. But since there's not even irreparable harm, we'll just get rid of this case on that basis and call it a day. Those questions are less clear and can deal with those later, but don't even need to talk about it. The DC Circuit has set a high standard for irreparable injury. It must be both certain and great, actual, not theoretical, beyond remediation. It's a very high bar. But on the students telling its members, they say they're suffering right now, and they're going to continue to suffer if we don't do anything about this, if their data is accessible to DOGE. They observe that once information is disseminated, they say, the cat's out of the bag. Nothing we can do. And so there's going to be an ongoing injury. Our data will be exposed, and it can't be remedied after the fact. Once it's out, it's out. The students are correct, says the judge, that a disclosure of information generally cannot be undone. But that is not sufficient to show irreparable harm. Now, what the students overlook is that the context of dissemination matters. Courts find dissemination of information to be an irreparable injury when, for example, highly sensitive information will be made public. That's not happening here. Or end up in the hands of someone with no obligation to keep it secret. Indeed, the cases here that you rely on, students, are based on that. All these cases are about being made public and other things. And by the same token, courts have also declined to find irreparable injury when the disclosure is not going to be public, but involved individuals keeping it secret. Here, Ramada says that the 6 employees understand that when they're working at education, they must keep things secret. Anything garnered during the work, we've attested to. He further attests none of the employees will access any tax-related information without appropriate authorization. And all applicable laws and regulations, all of them say they'll follow it. And they also impose strict limits on any disclosure of any of these things made to the public. If they do leak it or disclose it or do something bad with it, charge them with a crime. They'll be civilly liable for it. You don't need to stop them doing their work. If they break the law, then charge them. But they're not breaking any laws. They're following the laws to the T. The students, they cite no authority for the proposition. They say mere access to this is dangerous. It's going to cause an injury because they looked at it. Yeah. What does that mean? If it's going to cause irreparable injury, if they look at it, then that means that they're going to find something that's going to be bad for you. Perhaps implicitly recognizing this infirmity, they also suggest that emergency relief is nonetheless needed to prevent future injuries. Like, well, we haven't been injured yet, but it's going to be coming in the future. But we need a TRO now because it's imminent. But it's not occurring yet. All right. They argue that there is a risk, right, which is an if statement, of identity theft. If something else happens, if there's further dissemination, there could be a risk, also very clever, different than like potential, right, but also kind of contingent. Share members' data, it could be a problem. But these harms, however, are entirely conjectural. There's no evidence but beyond sheer speculation that would allow the court to infer that DOGE staffers will misuse or further disseminate this information. In fact, the courts must presume that the government will exercise its powers responsibly and with due regard to the affected individuals. The presumption of regularity. We know you hate Trump, okay, but he still gets the presumption of regularity to support the official acts of public officers and their employees, unless you've got clear evidence otherwise. Education and DOGE staffers are obligated by the law to keep this information confidential. Privacy Act, tax laws, other federal laws. He says, Ramada, that all they're doing is auditing for waste, fraud, and abuse. They're identifying contracts that are inconsistent. But none of those initiatives involve any disclosure of sensitive, personal information about you students or anything. The future injuries of your members that you fear are therefore far from likely, let alone to be certain and great. All right, so they're just made up, so relax. Finally, the remedies provided under the Privacy Act and the Internal Revenue Code confirm that the members are not suffering and will not suffer irreparable harm. In general, injuries are not irreparable if there is a possibility that adequate compensation or corrective relief can be available later. If your information leaks, you can sue about that. You'll get paid. You'll be made whole. Somebody will go to jail. Here, both the Privacy Act and the Internal Revenue Code provide a right of action and money damages. Okay, so like you can go sue if this happens to you. You'll have future claims that you can bring if there's unauthorized disclosure. Now, to the extent the students have been injured by a violation of these statutes and they meet the other requirements for relief, there is a possibility of compensatory relief. You'll be made whole later. And so, for the reasons explained above, the student's motion for another temporary restraining order is denied, not granted, so ordered by the very astute Judge Randolph D. Moss. Good decision on this one. And this is the appropriate standard to apply to these things. This is what every other District of Columbia judge should have been doing, holding that standard high, saying a TRO should not be granted unless there is serious irreparable harm. And what we've been seeing is the opposite of that. They're all just kind of speculating. They all have many other alternative avenues to bring their claims, but the judges just say, we hate Trump, and so we will allow this to carry on, to slow down and drag out the administration. Now, this decision was a good decision. So good, in fact, that Pam Bondi fired off this letter from her office from the U.S. Department of Justice, sent this one from the SDNY into the Honorable Jeanette Vargas. We remember who she is. She is also handling a TRO case. In fact, I believe she granted a TRO. She is this woman right here. Jeanette Vargas. This was the case brought by the other states. So a bunch of other states sued here, ended up in her court. And I do believe she granted an initial TRO at the outset. So what they're sending into her courtroom was this. They say, hey, judge, you know, this office represents Trump and Elon and the government in this case. And we write to bring your attention to another supplemental authority. On February 17th, the case that we just read from the University of California Students Association denied their motion for a TRO that would have restrained education from doing their job, from disclosing information about plaintiffs' members, the state's members, to individuals affiliating with DOGE, saying they're allowed to do that. We can't stop them from doing that. So, Judge, someone else in D.C. is interpreting this correctly. We hope you do the same. So, very good updates there. And you can see that as DOGE goes door to door and continues to eliminate corruption, fraud, waste, and abuse, people are abandoning ship before they get there. The head of Social Security just called it quits, and she's on her way out.
All right, we have some breaking news for you. The acting head of the Social Security Administration has resigned. Michelle King's departure comes after she refused to provide DOGE staffers access to sensitive information. Your information. King had been with the department for 30 years. It's the latest.
30 years? Good Lord.
Act of resistance meant to slow cost-cutting moves by President Trump and Elon Musk. DOGE had to go to court to gain access to Treasury payment systems, and it is fighting to enter a sensitive database in the IRS.
So dramatic. It's like we're being taken over by a foreign hacker or something. They're allowed to do it. A federal judge just said that too. There's already other crimes that you can charge them with if they do something illegal with it. It was set up using an agency that Obama created. So stop your hystericism. 30 years from some Social Security person resigns as soon as they want to look at her books. No wonder she's resigning. And they're going to reframe these as all like, well, she's a heroic person who's going to stand firm to protect her information. She's running away because she's about to get caught, in my opinion. Now, they're having a hard time on this. Even this guy, Mark Elias, you remember him. He was a big player in the 2020 election and the 2024 election, in my opinion, leading a ton of the lawfare against Trump and Republicans. And they're trying to figure out what to do here. The chief nerd clipped this saying he's crying because Elon's attacking him or something. Let's listen to what they sound like here.
Look, my life changed after 2016. I was the general counsel for Hillary Clinton's campaign and was
Yeah, we saw how you and Michael Sussman and Jake Sullivan tried to rig that election too by creating the Russian collusion hoax that Jake Sullivan posted via Hillary Clinton's X account. Then you sent Michael Sussman in to collude, in my opinion, with the FBI as you were working with Perkins Coie to lie to them, to try to ensnare Trump into some other scam. So no wonder your life changed, brother, because you were involved, in my reading of it, corruption to try to rig multiple elections.
Prominent Trump critic in that role. And then when he was in the White House in 2020, as you know, I represented President Biden in defeating Donald Trump and his allies more than 60 times in court after the election to prevent him from stealing it. And I've been involved in voting rights and other disputes with Donald Trump and his cohort for years. So I have become accustomed, unfortunately, it's sick in some ways to say, I've become accustomed to all of the attacks. I've become accustomed to the threats, to the innuendos, to the false smears.
No, they're not false. They're real. You and Norm Eisen are bad actors. We've seen what you've tried to do here, and we're looking forward to all of the exposure coming for you, Norm, Conway, Cheney, and the rest of them. So you can see they're getting a little bit nervous there because scrutiny is coming underway. But the Democrats have not been able to figure this out. One solution to this would be to, work with improving the country, try to join the winning team and make the country better for everybody. We do all live in the same country, by the way. Like, it's not outside of the realm of possibility for Democrats, even like Dean Phillips, right, to be kind of reasonable. Just say, look, we absolutely agree there need to be major cuts. We absolutely agree there need to be, restrictions on the border and so on and so forth. But we're going to have a little bit of a different approach, or we're going to try something new, or we're going to go all in on this policy or this policy. Not so progressive, and actually work with DOGE to say, all right, volunteer. Here, we got it. We're going to actually, the Democrats' budget proposal is going to propose more cuts than the Republicans are going to propose because we're even more efficient and better than you. But they're just so dumb. They're like, we need to spend trillions of dollars for foreigners. And this was an interesting exchange on CNBC. This guy, Palantir CEO, is saying they're just not getting it, man. They're having a hard time, can't wake up.
Look, I what I don't like about what's going on is I just view this as, well, let's watch the Democratic Party commit suicide. And like, I've been a Democrat most of my life. I kind of view myself as outside it, but I don't like watching the Democrats just commit suicide. And what I see is most of the country doesn't really, at this point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country is like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, what the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to dialogue with you about how you're doing and what are you doing. I don't believe that's actually what happened. And again, I like Elon. I know I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. I think it's like another dance where I'm supposed to say, of course, like whatever. It's like there's this one issue where I might, and then you get boxed into you cannot solve the problem. And then I would say, what is the biggest problem in this society? Biggest problem in this society from my perspective is legitimacy of our institutions. Why aren't they legitimate? They're not legitimate because, okay, do any of you really believe that 99% of your taxpayer dollars are being spent? But last and not least, and probably arguably most importantly, there's two revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes? Like, how do you explain that to people? And
theft.
And by the way, slightly more technically, what large language models do is you can go into the contracts and see exactly what happened. So in the past, we couldn't do this. Now we can. The right response is, we want this to happen. We want to happen. We want to be involved in the dialogue. The real response is, it feels like the people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen.
They don't. They don't. He's so close to waking up and realizing it's their money. They're in on the grift, brother. 99% of that is going back into their pockets. So why would they want any of it to stop? They obviously don't. Here is another clip. Thanks to Colin Rugg for clipping this one for us, saying that Pamela Brown got into it with Tim Burchett, who laid the smackdown on her over at CNN.
Congressman, hold on. I want to go to this question because, again, it's not a question of whether waste should be rooted out of the government. So many people agree with that. But now we're seeing it's the way it's being done. The government is trying to claw back several employees who oversaw nuclear weapons after they were fired. They realized, oh, we made a mistake. We need staffers who oversee nuclear weapons. A professor at the University of Maryland, Don Kettle, who specializes in civil service, told the Washington Post that, yes, the government is likely full of wasteful bloat, but said a clumsy fix is worse than no fix at all, saying it's like going to a meat market, getting a piece of steak and trying to cut out the fat with a sledgehammer. That would only make a mess of the meat. Do you think, Congressman, that is a fair point?
That's a really weird analogy. What?
That the way this is being done is clumsy rather than methodical.
No.
Again, you're upset about you're attacking the message carrier, not the results. You talk about nuclear secrets. You had a person who was in charge of nuclear secrets, a man who dressed up as a woman, would go into the airport and steal women's luggage, was overseeing those nuclear secrets under the Biden administration. And I never heard y'all say a peep about that. Again, man.
I don't know anything about that. I'll be transparent.
You don't know anything about the suitcase thief? Dude did it twice. What? Walking out with people's suitcases. Department of Energy. I don't know anything about that. You should look into it, Pamela.
Elon Musk. Well, you need to look it up. It's all over the internet. It's all over. He was uncharged.
But the question is, this is unrelated to the people overseeing nuclear weapons being fired. And Elon Musk himself said, we're moving so fast, of course there will be mistakes. The question is, some of these mistakes are really high stakes. Accidentally firing people overseeing nuclear weapons. Do you see that point?
Humans will make mistakes, ma'am, but currently these are bloated programs. You have no-show employees that are angry that they're having to go back to work, that they've moved, and they're not.
No
even
one's
in the
disagreeing. There's bloat and waste.
Jobs were.
You are.
No one's disagreeing.
Well, then why are y'all not exposing it? Have y'all even talked about, hey, Mozambique? We sent them $10 million for circumcisions. I mean, goodness
Talk about
gracious,
that,
ma'am.
Pamela.
Americans are paying
We've been covering at
of their
length
salaries.
where the money is
No,
going
you
to.
haven't. You all y'all do is run down Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and you continuously do this, and that's why your ratings are in the tank, ma'am.
All right, Congressman Tim Burchett, we're going to leave it there. I do appreciate your time coming on and having this conversation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, why don't you investigate the circumcisions in Nepal there, Pamela? Why don't you dig into why we're sending millions of dollars overseas for those things instead of just crying about Elon and DOGE firing some group of people, hiring them right back, hiring some. We actually need that guy. He was good. He was smart. Okay, good. Okay, you can do that. This is operating quickly. So you move quick, you break things, you fix them, you build the next thing, and you iterate. And that's how you get rockets that Elon can capture with chopsticks, okay, flying around. How does that happen? Okay, he knows what he's doing. Pamela doesn't. And that was fun. I mean, apparently she should go do her research on the suitcase thief who was running the Department of Energy before these intelligent people are fixing things. So Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana also came out and had something to say about the Democrats today.
I've got a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they haven't asked me for advice, but if I did, I'd tell them, look, you just got to try harder not to suck. I mean, think about it. Over the past 4 years, the Democrats mismanaged Congress. They mismanaged COVID. They mismanaged the economy. They mismanaged inflation. They mismanaged the national debt. They mismanaged Afghanistan. More recently, in their opposition to President Trump and Mr. Musk, the Democrats have chosen to support the bureaucrats and the spending porn over the American taxpayer. Just like they support illegal immigration over the rule of law, just like they support transgender athletes over women's sports, just like they support Hamas terrorists over Israel. All Democrats are not like this, but the party is controlled right now by people who majored in online activism with a minor in puberty blockers. I know these people. They think men can breastfeed. They're triggered by race. They cry if you use the wrong pronoun. And most fair-minded Americans look at this and they go, these people are about 10 exits past normal. And that's what's killing the Democrats right now.
Just try not to suck so bad. All right, Democrats. Gosh, you're embarrassing yourselves. So Senator Kennedy with a nice message for them. Hopefully they learned something, but we're not holding our breath there. All right, so let's talk about what's happening with the Supreme Court and the DOJ. Prosecutors are fleeing the DOJ. They're being asked to investigate corruption. They don't want to be anywhere near it. And we've also got the Supreme Court taking action on another person who's trying to weasel his way back into the special counsel's office after he was fired by President Trump. You can see here is what the Supreme Court has for us. Previously, we read through the application that was submitted to John Roberts by President Trump's Department of Justice and the Solicitor General, saying you cannot have Hampton Dellinger, the special counsel appointed by Joe Biden in his final year of his presidency, the same guy who went to law school with Hunter Biden, he cannot be in this office. Trump fired him, and Judge Amy Berman Jackson shoved him back in. So Trump asked the Supreme Court to step in and stop this, and everybody is always looking for what the Supreme Court says next. Like, are they going to deny it? Are they going to accept it? Are they going to order a response? What's going to happen? Well, they ordered a response. So by 2 p.m. tomorrow, Hampton Dellinger needs to respond as to why he should be shoved back into power against Trump's will. This is about the unitary executive and whether the special counsel can be fired unilaterally at will by the president. Of course, we believe the answer is yes. So we're going to keep our eye on this one. Let's see if anything has been dropped since we've been here. And we do have it. Wow. Okay, so this just dropped. All right, so amazing. So let's take a look at what is inside here. So we'll hit the highlights on this one. So this came in. Wow, didn't even realize that. So fresh out of the oven. This one just dropped. So Hampton Dellinger submitted his response. So let's hit the highlights on this one, and then we'll see what the Supreme Court does next. What else got filed? So amicus brief, law professors, other people are submitting their briefs. Let's see what Dellinger said in response to this one. So he says, all right, look, to John Roberts, he wants to stay in power against Trump's will. He says the government devotes most of its application to argumentation over weighty and complex issues of constitutional law and remedy, because it is. It's about Article 2 power. But on its framing of the issues, the merits are everything, and appellate jurisdiction is a mere afterthought. All right. So again, he's going to rely on a technicality. This, you can tell how sneaky this is already. The DC Circuit Court of Appeals rejected this twice on jurisdiction. They said you have to go forward, do your preliminary injunction, lose that, get to an appealable order, then you can take it up on appeal. Trump is trying to short circuit that, right? Trump is trying to go right to the Supreme Court. And the dissent at the Court of Appeals in the DC Circuit said that when the executive power is being impinged upon, like it is now, because Amy Berman Jackson shoved Dellinger into this position, then the executive should be able to appeal that, because every day that goes by that this guy is in power, Trump does not have his say about who's in power. Do you know who that hurts? Us, the American people. We elected President Trump to go in there and do a job. This judge is usurping that power and not allowing him to do that. Every day is an ongoing harm to us. But he says, look, that gets things backwards, right? So this is going to be a technical argument. In other words, the Supreme Court, you cannot hear this because this has to go through the proper channels. Now, as the DC Circuit emphasized, a 2-day appeal from the issuance of a TRO, which was issued 2 days after and which expires later, is not a proper vehicle to resolve these disputes, right? So they're saying, Trump, you should have done something different. But that doesn't stop them. They openly solicit the court to create an Article 2 exception to the general rule that TROs cannot be appealed. And that's not right. It's a president exception, because the court is at the base layer. Unless you want us to violate the district level courts and go directly to the Supreme Court or force these things to go to the Supreme Court. In other words, we could ignore the district courts until SCOTUS settles it, which is really what they want, right? That's kind of the impeachment trap. But he's saying, no, a lower level district court judge can hamstring the executive branch and the president cannot appeal it. You have to go through the mechanisms so that they can stall out your administration. It's a ridiculous. This is actually the opposite. It's like they can use the courts as an exception to executive sovereignty. And any lower level district court judge can just issue a TRO, and then you can be delayed until it reaches the Supreme Court. So he's actually framing it dishonestly in the reverse. It's not an exception. You guys are exceeding your Article 3 power and encroaching on Article 2. But it's sneaky. It's clever lawyering. The government even offers an initial list of TROs it might wish to appeal on this basis, right? Because Article 2 power is being encroached by every one of these TROs. They're quoting Scalia. This wolf comes as a wolf. Thank you for quoting somebody smarter than you guys. For generations, including in 2 untold cases involving government defendants, federal courts have adhered to the principle that TROs can generally not be appealed unless there are preliminary injunctions. So, all right, again, this is not going to be that interesting because it's all just saying Trump is usurping the standard process. First, contrary to the government's assertions, no injunctive relief has been ordered. We haven't forced him to do anything. Remember, because Judge Amy Berman Jackson, didn't call it any injunction. She called it a stay. She was staying the firing. He had already been fired, and she was reversing that. So it's clearly an injunction. So the case does not evoke the special solitude otherwise afforded. And the government has conceded here that it violated a directly applicable statute, which no federal court has enjoined because he didn't give Congress notice before he fired him. He did. They got their notice the same day he was fired. This is the kind of circumstance why TROs are important. And at the bottom, there is no merit to their effort to say there's a 5-alarm fire here. It's short-lived TRO. So this guy can be in office illegally against Trump's wishes for weeks just to preserve the status quo. Separate of those considerations, the government's application should be denied. So just Supreme Court, don't hear this. They say the government's not going to win. There's not irreparable injury if this guy is in office. The balance of the equities cut firmly against relief, and this guy should be made to stay because Trump violated the special counsel statute. We address each of these points and more, and so you can read those highlights on your own. It's going to be a lot of technical stuff in there from Hampton Dellinger, just saying, don't hear the case ultimately. So that's fresh out of the oven, but that is going to now be decided by the Supreme Court, and we'll be seeing what they say on that one. Hopefully we get some more action on that soon, but we'll also hear more from Trump's DOJ. We should have a reply from them as well. So keep our eyes on that one. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, meanwhile, the Department of Justice is also losing other career prosecutors. Boo-hoo. They're racing for the exits when they're asked to do their jobs. A senior federal prosecutor in Washington resigned on Tuesday. She said that there was an improper demand by appointees of Trump to launch a criminal probe of a contract awarded under Joe Biden. So they say, look into this case. She says, no, I'm not going to do it. Denise Chung, who supervised criminal cases in Washington. Okay, great. She's in the DC district. She ran cases. Criminal prosecutors gone. Bye. Good riddance to her. Probably ran a lot of the J6 cases. Said that she has been ordered to open a probe into a contract that she did not identify, and she believed the request was not supported by evidence in a letter that Reuters got their hands on. She said, I've been proud to serve for 24 years. Ugh, good riddance. 24 years as a prosecutor in DC. Ugh. During my tenure, I've always been guided by the oath I took to support and defend the Constitution. As a DC prosecutor, give me a break. Her resignation letter is the latest. Roughly 20 prosecutors who investigated the J6 cases have also been reassigned right now. Chung said in her letter that at first she was ordered to launch a grand jury investigation into unlawful contracts to Biden. After reviewing the documents, she said that she and her colleagues said there's no evidence for this. And she rebuffed the request, and so now she's gone. Said she consulted with the FBI Washington, another corrupt entity, and is now leaving. She said in a letter she was ordered to resign. She announced her departure early on Tuesday. Okay. So she was fired. Okay, she was fired. Bye, you're fired. Get out. So that's another one. Here is what they're doing in protest. So they've got these little pathetic things that they're trying to do in DC. It would be, it'd be interesting. It's like if instead of protesting and complaining and whining and just being mostly useless, like if they were productive and worked hard in the government and identified the waste, fraud, and abuse instead of becoming the waste, fraud, and abuse, maybe we wouldn't be in this position in the first place. It's like if you are in that crowd and you're supposed to be in the office, if you're not at your desk, you should be fired immediately. This is like the display, the manifestation, the literal embodiment of waste, fraud, and abuse is happening right here on your screen. You can see it. It's been like anthropomorphized into human form. Waste, fraud, and abuse just in existence, just floating around the grassy knolls of Washington, D.C. Thanks for proving our point. They're also doing it in Denver, Colorado. Here you go. Walking waste, fraud, and abuse in Colorado. You can see it right there, one after the other. So that's what they're up to. Now, similarly, hundreds of former federal prosecutors, including many SDNY folks, and Jack Smith have signed an open letter to support career federal prosecutors. So the hack prosecutors write a letter supporting hack prosecutors. Isn't that fun? Saying that they have watched the recent actions of the Justice Department with alarm. Yeah, because their facade is crumbling around them. Here's that dumb letter. they publish. They say, dear other career federal prosecutors, like you, each of us devoted years of our lives to pursuing justice. Although we dutifully carried out the law enforcement priorities of the executive branch, irrespective of who headed it, the oath we swore was to the Constitution and not to the president, attorney general, or others. Our obligations didn't stop at the oath we took. As prosecutors, we were rightly prohibited from making criminal charging decisions based on someone's political association and more. But to all of you, we salute and admire the courage many of you have exhibited. You have responded to challenges of the type that no public servant, okay, don't you get so tired of that? These public servants, you work for the government, prosecuting crimes with like unlimited benefits, tons of days off. You'll never get fired. You can do whatever you want, basically, and you're fine. Public servants, give me a break, should ever be forced to confront with principle and conviction. We know there will be more challenges ahead, but please know that when you do, we're watching you with pride and admiration and standing ready to support you in this honorable pursuit. Give me a break. All right, so you know how you can tell this letter is trash. Obviously, it's because, as we'll find out, looks like Jack Smith signed it. Look at all these people. All of them associating with the very corrupt and not even legitimate, illegitimate, not even a real boy, Jack Smith. And so, man, look at all these people who signed this, all these bureaucrats who were very upset about this. This must have gone around on like emails or group messages or something. But you can see all the people on here. Let's see where Smith is. Did Jack Smith sign it? Oh, there he is, Jack Smith, chief of the public integrity section, who got obliterated by the Supreme Court and then lost both of his cases against President Trump. What a loser. Now, if you thought that list might taint the whole list and kind of invalidate everybody whose name's on here, it's like, wow, you're associated with him? He's like a criminal. So you signed the same letter? That's pretty pathetic. You know who else is on this list that makes it even worse is this guy right here. Andrew Weissman is also on the list. So the list is completely invalidated. It means nothing because all these people are signing a list with Jack Smith and Andrew Weissman, two of the biggest hacks in the justice system. Now, they're upset about this. As you can see, they don't want people to investigate them. That's why that prosecutor left. They said, hey, can you look into this $20 billion slush fund? That's what she was asked to investigate, and she didn't want to do it. So now here is Lee Zeldin, the new director, secretary of the EPA, explaining what is actually happening.
Tell us about this $20 billion that you found stashed away. And as we were chatting on the elevator, you said it was done in such a way that made oversight nearly impossible.
That's right. So starting September 18th of 2024, there was a financial agent agreement that was entered into between the Biden Treasury Department and this outside bank. After that, there were additional agreements, an account control agreement, amended account control agreement. The dates show this rush. It was actually on Election Day, November 5th, that the General Counsel's office was providing a legal opinion on it. And they were amending these account control agreements right up to the week before inauguration. Now, $20 billion going out the door up front should be a big red flag, because what makes so much more sense is that if somebody is going to receive a grant, that they are doing work and then they're coming back and they're asking for the next tranche of money, as opposed to just fronting all of it. Now, what's crazy about these different agreements that I've read through over the course of the last few days is that they deliberately, in writing, make sure that they are drastically reducing accountability and oversight by the EPA, by government. I want, EPA to be in possession of the funding and have control and oversight of the funding, but that was relinquished. So the whole scheme was something that was extremely irresponsible before you even get started at analyzing each individual recipient.
So these protests we were watching,
they're like criminal fraudsters inside the government, moving things around in an official capacity. And as Trump won and it became clear they were not going to maintain power, they started to shift things around to ransack what was left of the country before they had to leave. Here is Alina Abba in the House talking about taxes, Elon Musk, and Trump.
We are doing exactly what America mandated on November 5th, cleaning up waste, fraud, and protecting you, the American people, and our money, because we pay a lot of taxes and we need that money to be spent wisely. So the fact that we're being stopped by people who are Elon Musk, Donald Trump, billionaires who know how to run businesses is insane to me. I would love for them to come in and help me make billions of dollars or save billions of dollars. And that is what they are doing for next to nothing for the American people.
This changing the whole country, actual public servants who could have lived entirely different lives, but who are now working to make the country better, versus the people who call themselves public servants and then deliver circumcisions in Nepal. We want our country to do better than that, and we're working hard to make that happen. All right, so let's do one final update here. We've got some clarity on this very interesting legal question. Who is Elon Musk, and how does he relate to the DOGE team? We have a declaration that was filed in the District of Columbia, case involving multiple blue states suing Elon Musk. This was taking place in Judge Chutkan's courtroom, and we're trying to figure out what the Democrats' real objection is. They're saying Elon should be appointed, but he doesn't really run an agency. And they say Elon shouldn't be accessing data, and he's not doing that at all. And he shouldn't be making these decisions. He doesn't have the power to do that, and he's not. He's just kind of communicating about things, and other people who do have the power are making those decisions. And so we're asking, what is Elon? Who is he? Where does he get his source power from? Well, the DOJ is giving us some clarity on this. This came in from the DOJ, the Special Counsel's Office, U.S. Department of Justice. Joshua Gardner sent this into the court, said, all right, Judge, during today's hearing, the court asked counsel for Trump and Elon for further information regarding the following: whether any federal employee terminations took place at the end of last week, any future plans by the non-defendants identified in the state's TRO, to create widespread layoffs, and more. Now, we're aware that a select set of agencies did, in fact, terminate a number of employees at the end of last week, but we cannot make any programmatic representation as to how each of the 7 non-defendants may go about personnel actions in the next 2 weeks. So the judge says, how many other people are you going to fire? They said, we don't know. And we're not going to tell you because they're not being sued. But as attached, and the declaration from Joshua Fisher explains that we'll read, Elon Musk, quote, has no actual or formal authority to make government decisions himself, taking it right off the table, including personnel decisions at individual agencies. He's like a consultant. He's helping people decide what to do, and they're making the decisions. He is an employee of the White House office, okay? Not USDS DOGE, not the DOGE Temporary Service Organization. He's not in DOGE. And he only has the ability to advise the president or to communicate the president's directives like other senior White House officials. And moreover, Trump and Elon are not aware of any source of legal authority granting the USDS or the DOGE service the power to order personnel actions at any of the listed agencies above. So DOGE is also following the DOGE rules, and the DOGE rules say that they can't fire anybody. So they're not. Neither of the president's orders regarding DOGE contemplate, much less furnish, any such authority. They're all saying, here, they're exceeding their power. No, they're not. It's literally in writing. They're not making the firing decisions. They're just looking at the data and advising. So that got sent into the court. Here's what the actual declaration says. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Democrats retool to get around this. I think they're going to say that in practice, he's exercising power that is akin to an agency or something like that. And so there should be an office that's created. But here they'll tell us this is not any different than any other advisors that other presidents have had. The problem is their prior advisors were just terrible. They sucked at everything. This new advisor's just like really, really good at his job. And so like, wow, he's doing a bunch of stuff that's like illegal. It's like when you're out there, you're playing a video game and you're playing somebody who's very good at it. You're like, it looks like they're cheating. You're like, what are you even doing? I didn't even press a button and I'm dead. What? That's because they're better than you. It doesn't mean they're doing something illegal or cheating. They're just better than you. So I, Joshua Fisher, wrote this. I declare under penalty of perjury the following. I make these statements with personal knowledge or knowledge obtained in the course of my official duties. He says, I am the director of the Office of Administration. I've held that position since January 20th, 2025, coming in on the Trump train. In that capacity, I am personally involved in the appointment of special government employees. I have personal knowledge of Mr. Elon Musk's employment status with the federal government. Mr. Musk is an employee of the White House office. He holds that position as a non-career special government employee and in the White House. Now, in that job, Mr. Musk is a senior advisor to the president. It is not uncommon for the president to have senior advisors who are special government employees. For instance, Anita Dunn was an influential senior advisor to President Biden while serving as a special government employee. So Elon is just like Anita Dunn, except better in every measurable characteristic exponentially. So she did it. I'm sorry you picked Anita to be your advisor. She didn't do much for you, but we got Elon now. So just pick better players for your team. In his role as senior advisor to the president, Mr. Musk has no greater authority than any other White House senior advisor. Like other senior White House advisors, Mr. Musk has no actual or formal authority to make government decisions himself. Mr. Musk can only advise the president and communicate the president's directives. Oh, I love it. Now, the DOGE service is a component of the executive office of the president. You guys can org chart this out if you want to, but it's where it's illegal. The DOGE temporary organization is within DOGE. Both are separate from the White House office. Mr. Musk is an employee of the White House office. He's not an employee of DOGE or the DOGE temp. And Mr. Musk is not the DOGE administrator. So sue whatever you want. He's not even working for DOGE. He basically has nothing to do officially with DOGE other than with communicating to them as a separate entity and then communicating with the president. Not any different than what a chief of staff would do to facilitate things getting done in the executive office. And although Jill Biden was not a special government employee, Hunter Biden was not a special government employee. They were in there. They were on foreign trips. They were involved in all sorts of decision making. Some people saying that Hunter may have facilitated the pardons of the Biden family. So this happens, right? The president can bring on senior advisors. Elon just happens to be very, very good and effective, and he's communicating exceptionally well with the DOGE team. All of it is constitutional, and the Democrats are having to have a response to this and come up with what they can do to fight back. As it stands, all they're doing, really, the judges are kind of whining and complaining in court. Kyle Cheney from Politico got his hands on some transcripts here. He said there's a pretty serious exchange here between another judge, Judge Reyes, and a DOJ attorney on pronouns. So remember, one of the doors that the bureaucracy Grim Reaper is going to is the DOD. And they're cleaning house with their pronouns and all the gender whatever stuff that they used to be training, not doing that anymore. So one judge is very upset with this. And the judges, I think, are realizing that these TROs are not going to stand, and they're actually hurting themselves, like they're digging themselves into a deeper hole, because when the Supreme Court comes back out and establishes a much more unitary executive, they're going to be reeling from that one over these next 4 years. But here is what this conversation sounded like in court. Here's the judge. They're talking about transgender pronouns, or whatever the pronouns are. I can't keep up. It says Reyes, the judge says, all right, prosecutor, DOJ person, can we agree that the greatest fighting force is not going to be impacted in any way by less than 1% of the soldiers using a different pronoun than others might want to call them? This is a judge in court. Judge, no, I can't agree with that here. Okay, like 1%, that's like, it's kind of a big deal. Judge says, totally inappropriately, like arguing for this. Well, would you agree with me that if our military is negatively impacted in any kind of way, that matters, right? We all have a lot bigger problems than the pronouns we use, says this judge. We have a military that is incompetent. Any common sense, rational human being knows that it doesn't, like the pronouns, like doesn't impact anything. Says it's a pretext. It's frankly ridiculous, says this judge. If you want to get me an officer of the U.S. military who is willing to get on the stand and say that because of pronoun usage, the U.S. military is less prepared because of pronoun usage, I will be the first to give you a box of cigars. All right, any service members out there who might opine on that? Maybe it does matter. Probably a lot. Now, Kyle Cheney also got this exchange. Here's this judge continuing to rant and rave from the bench. She says, the order from President Trump calls an entire category of people dishonest, dishonorable, undisciplined, immodest, who lack integrity. People who have taken an oath to defend this country. People who've been under fire. People who've received medals for taking fire for this country. I want to know from the government whether that language expresses animus. Does that express animus? Ranting about this order. The attorney for the DOJ says, well, not in any constitutional... I'm not asking about the Constitution. I don't care about that. I'm asking in a common sense way. This is a policy from the President of the United States that's affecting thousands of people. To call an entire group of people, lying, dishonest people who are undisciplined, immodest, and have no integrity, how is that anything other than showing animus? He says, I don't have an answer for you, Judge. Just continue on your little screed here. That's fine. You don't have an answer. You just don't want to give it. People can make solid arguments as to why some or even most transgender people shouldn't be in the military, but we're dealing with unadulterated animus here. We're dealing with the President of the United States, dealing with a group of people serving their country, calling them liars. And then she went on some more ranty raids. Okay, so that's what these judges are doing in DC. No wonder they don't want us to have this stuff on video. So here was Stephen Miller, representative of the Trump administration, on with Brianna Kellar of CNN, having an exchange with her about what DOGE actually does, how it works, breaking down how the Constitution functions for the anchors over at CNN.
Chief of Staff for Policy. Stephen, thank you so much for taking time for us. So who is in charge of DOGE?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of DOGE?
No, the DOGE is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the Executive Office of the President, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the President wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles,
yes,
including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk a week ago answered a question about transparency at DOGE. This is how he spoke about DOGE.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the DOGE handle on X and to the DOGE website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
But you hear him there. We post our actions. All of our actions are maximally transparent. Does Elon Musk know he's not in charge of DOGE?
Again, the President runs the government. Then the President appoints advisors, including Elon, including myself, including all the other staff here at the White House. And then those staff, in turn, execute the President's commands and directions to all the agencies of the federal government. This is how democracy works, something that we treasure in America. The whole American people go to the ballot box, they elect the President appoints staff, the staff that administer his orders and directives across the whole U.S. government.
Okay, Stephen, I get that, but this is important because we want to talk about who's making the decisions here. There were 300 employees, the National Nuclear Security Administration, you know about this. They were fired. The agency had to rescind those terminations because these were employees who were critical to maintaining the nation's nuclear stockpile. So then who is it making those decisions of which federal employees are terminated?
Well, in that case, the Secretary of Energy would be the one. So what you're describing with the cuts in the Department of Energy, those are directed by the Senate-confirmed Secretary of Energy.
Okay, so that was the Secretary of Energy's mistake.
Well, I wouldn't use the term mistake. I would say that it's pretty standard when you're downsizing government. You make cuts, you assess those cuts, you see who needs to be rehired, who needs to be kept, who needs to be
That's not what happened here, though, Stephen. You know that. They were rescinded. These aren't normal things. These were terminations that were rescinded.
I understand that even a temporary interruption in federal employment is a great crisis and catastrophe for you and for CNN. What the American people see is a government that is finally delivering a promise of accountability under President Trump. You want to have a conversation about transparency. Let me ask you a question. Do you have any idea where the $22 billion that the Department of Health and Human Services provided to illegal aliens under Joe Biden is right now? $22 billion with a B. That's enough to provide a free house to every homeless veteran in America. Where's the $22 billion? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Joe Biden just spent it, and now it's gone. Transparency begins with having an accounting of where every federal dollar is spent. And God bless President Trump for leading this effort.
Stephen, it seems like the crisis here had to do with the nation's nuclear stockpile. And for these particular federal workers, which I'm not, so this isn't my personal crisis, military members of the Guard
I don't
and the
think
Reserve.
it's a crisis,
well,
and you don't think it's
well,
hold on. I don't think it's a crisis,
Stephen,
and you don't think it's a crisis. Then
why are you asking about it?
Military-
Yeah, because they're just trying to smear Elon and the White House, and they're trying to drive a wedge, right? This is a common thing in politics, is they try to drive wedges between people and issues and administrations, and they want Trump and Elon to be at each other's throats. Obviously, that's not happening. But this was an interesting one. Kyle Becker flagged this for us, and you can see this person, we played a clip of these people earlier this week, and this woman apparently is not at all who she says she is. Here was this exchange over from ABC.
But Elon Musk's influence is sweeping throughout the administration. It was late last week that the DOGE team showed up at USAID offices in Washington and demanded access.
That sign's down now.
USAID
Bye.
employee Christina Dry described the scene.
DOGE was in the building. We took down our pride flags. I took out any books I felt would be incriminating. No one was talking. We heard they started taking transcripts automatically of all of our Google Meets. They unplugged the news in the little kitchen galleys. It didn't feel good. And then Saturday, all of the websites went down, and then I lost complete access to my computer.
Oh, bummer. So everything, even their Google Meets. How fun is that? So this woman, right, you can see it even says contractor USAID. They had her on with CBS the other day on 60 Minutes, and they had her saying like she was an employee, like we're all going to die. We don't know where our paychecks are coming from. My kids are going to starve to death. There's going to be a chaotic shutdown. Turns out she was actually a consultant, right? Not actually an employee. So CBS seems like they may have oversold that one for us when they were presenting that. But they also got this guy, Norm Eisen, one of the main architects of the lawfare against Trump, historically brought impeachments against him, tried to rig things with Adam Schiff, one of the worst in the country, in my opinion. And he is also behind several new lawsuits against Trump, seeking TROs. He's representing a bunch of Jane Does who are government employees in one lawsuit, and he's representing another set of FBI agent John Does in another lawsuit, both lawsuits brought by his 501c3 nonprofit organizations to wage war against Trump. So he showed up on Jen Psaki's #1 hit show on MSNBC, and here's what they talked about.
This is the latest concerning element, and we've gone to court again and again at State Democracy Defenders Fund, filing the very first lawsuit saying DOGE was illegal, getting an order from the court blocking Mr. Musk and DOGE out of the Treasury's Bureau of Financial Systems, those very extensive databases.
And then the judge walked that back and opened up access to it because the Treasury is allowed to see it.
With payments made across the country. And now they're trying to get a hold of IRS and Social Security data. There's no purpose to it. We're not going to allow it. We're going to go to court and stop it.
Yeah, well, they're not doing so hot right now. A lot of those TROs were being walked back, and we saw 2 major victories today out of the D.C. circuit. So here, the Tennessee Holler clip this one for us. Here was this dude explaining how 58 top officials got fired within 1 hour. How epic.
President Trump has said, quote, billions of dollars have been stolen. The whole thing is a fraud.
It's utter nonsense. The most accountable aid agency in the world is USAID. I've written actually widely on this subject.
Yeah, so they're very accountable. We get the point. Yeah, right. We're seeing what's ultimately happening there. The View ladies were also having conversations about this today. And I think Whoopi has a better idea for getting rockets into space. And it's not using the gas coming out of her orifices. Here is this clip.
I put up with it.
Well,
and by the way, egg prices are supposed to come down, not airplanes.
Well, let me say someplace that could really
egg prices, not airplanes. At the View.
Use a lot of cutting. You know, yeah. Elon has very many. What do you call it?
Government contracts.
Yeah. I think, because I don't remember, maybe y'all heard it, but I don't remember looking for an armored car. And I don't remember, I don't care what it looks like. I don't remember asking for it. I don't know why I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
I want to know.
What is she talking about?
When did I say, hey, we need another agency next to NASA?
Yeah.
So
NASA can't fly anything. The only people putting stuff into the space orbit with any real poise and consistency is Elon.
When did we start paying for his stuff?
About SpaceX overseeing FAA?
No. You know that he's going to be cutting. NASA.
Yeah.
That's the competition. So what is the real deal here?
Money.
If we want to cut some money, let's cut some of these. I'm okay with that.
What is she talking about? All right, so they're still having a tough time over there on ABC News during their daytime TV segments. I don't even know what she's talking about. Elon may be making Cybertrucks for the military, or is it the military wanting or probably already having a parallel Starlink system, right? Elon has this Dyson sphere type of apparatus around the entire planet beaming internet to everybody. Surely the military has their own Skynet built out. So I don't know. I mean, look, if the government can put rockets up into orbit better than Elon can, the government should do it themselves, but they can't. They never will be able to do it. That's why Elon is so in need. Here is another reveal. Even MSNBC is talking about the $70 billion plus that got sent out to illegals.
There was an Inspector General audit last year that showed over an 8-year period, the Social Security Administration made almost $72 billion
Social Security
in improper payments, a little less than 1% of payments in that time period. Now, the
71
report
billion.
also says that most of these improper payments were overpayments, not payments to deceased people or people who didn't qualify to receive these payments. At the same time, Jose, this effort by DOGE is to go through this agency like every other and try to weed out waste and fraud.
That is an insane amount of money. And I was looking for the timing on this. Is this a year? Is this 70 billion a year? Yeah, and that number is just such a big number. It's like $1 trillion plus on Social Security. I'm not expecting to ever get a dime of Social Security, even though we pay into it, and I've done it my whole life. But I'm not expecting it because the whole system is obviously just a giant Ponzi scheme that is probably going to fail unless Elon and Trump can fix it. But here was Caroline Leavitt explaining Trump, Doge, Elon, they are going to do everything possible to root out the fraud and to fix all of these institutions.
I've been fighting fake news reporters all day long here in the Washington, D.C. swamp who are trying to fearmonger the American people into believing that this administration is going after their hard-earned tax dollars and their hard-earned Social Security checks. So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump has directed Elon Musk and the DOGE team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration. They haven't dug into the books yet, but they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people who are receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. And so their goal in going into the Social Security Administration is to identify three things. Number one, to identify duplicate payments and to end them. Number two, to identify payments that are going to deceased people who are no longer living and should no longer be receiving that money. And number three, to protect the integrity integrity of this system for hardworking Americans who have been paying into it their entire lives. So rest assured to all of the people watching your show tonight, if you paid into the system, honestly, you will continue to receive your Social Security checks. Do not buy into the lies from the legacy fake news media who are trying to fear you and scare you into believing otherwise. This is what we've seen them do about President Trump for years with every promise that he has made. And he's going in there to protect your hard-earned money. That is the ultimate goal.
And we're excited for them to do that so that they can salvage what is left of these institutions and hopefully reform them so they exist when the rest of us need them. But the Democrats are obstructing every inch of the effort, and Caroline Leavitt is explaining the truth. It's a shame they try to scare our seniors. They're going to take away all your Social Security, which is something that has never even been contemplated, right? They've actually been very consistent on this, that certain things will just not be touched, nor should they. So we'll keep our eye on this. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. Now, if you're just joining us or you made it a little bit late, we covered some good stuff today. Quick recap. We read through this order from Judge Tanya Chutkan that is rejecting the efforts by the 14 different states to try to stop Elon Musk. Rejected out of the District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. Many not expecting that, although we listened to the hearing yesterday, and it seemed like that is where she was going to go. We also read through this order from another District of Columbia judge, this one showing the students losing. They wanted to separate Elon from the rest of the government, essentially, and DOGE, saying that even education can't communicate with them. And another judge said this one is found in favor of President Trump. This is Judge Randolph D. Moss out of Washington, D.C. So some good stuff there. Then we did an update on the Supreme Court latest because Hampton Dellinger submitted his response to Trump's application knocking on the door of SCOTUS to refuse Hampton Dellinger from being in the special counsel's office. We'll see what the Supreme Court says in response to that. We also looked at this ridiculous letter from Weissman and Jack Smith saying, "Hold on strong, prosecutors. You're brave and we believe in you." We also then read through the official position of the DOJ about who and what Elon Musk is and what he does. And he's not even affiliated with DOGE. He works at the White House office, okay? So stop filing your stupid lawsuits now that you know better. We saw another mental judge go nuts over the pronoun situation as usual. And Stephen Miller cleaned house over on CNN. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this. Very grateful for the donations. Thank you for being here and subscribing and supporting our work. Couldn't do it without you. Let's see who is starting the day off as soon as this screen loads. And it's taking our time so we can spend this moment together waiting for it to load. And I'm grateful for that. All right, let's see who's here. Thank you to Donut for clipping for us today. And K Bean as well. Hey, check this out. We got some good news here. Hey, what's up, Judy Kimbler? What's up, Judy? Just became a supporter. New members, grab the members only stream from this morning. We had a fun one this morning. And members, we'll see you tomorrow morning as well. Hey, Jennifer says Off-Label Podcast is so close to 1,000 subs. Please show Voice of the People some love, fam. You know what to do. Head over next door on YouTube and join in on the fun. Off-Label Podcast. I think they're streaming later tonight. Hey, K-Bean, 36 months as a member, 3 years. Happy anniversary to us, K-Bean. Thanks for being here from the very beginning. We love you. Hey, it says, hey, greetings to George Klaus, the gavel man in the chat. The gavel man in the chat. Man, George's gavel is right over there. I'm looking at it, George. Thank you for that gavel. I picked it up yesterday, and it is meaty and nice, and it is authoritative. Thank you for the gavel, George. And it's great to see you back, my man. Last time I think we heard from you was many years ago, so it's great to see you. Kaizan, what's up, Kaizan? And KB, thanks for shouting out George. We love George. Hey, what's up, Kaizan in the house? Became a supporter. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Chrissy Lapointe, amazing. Also became a member. Grab the stream from this morning. We'll see you tomorrow as well. Thank you, Chrissy. Welcome, Kizan. We got one old guy's opinions. Says the Senate vote on a motion to advance Kash Patel is happening. And I saw our friend Sergeant GPS over on Locals shared this update from Mark Wayne Mullins on this. And it looks like Kash is moving forward. Tremendous news. Says the motion for Kash Patel is agreed to. First procedural hurdle is complete. So tremendous news. Thank you, Sergeant, for that one. Brian Hinkle says, I love my MAGA hats. And this morning we were having a conversation. Do you like the red hats or the black hats better? Are you red hat MAGA or black hat MAGA? That should be a thing. You know, like black hat hackers versus white hat hackers. It's like, what kind of MAGA are you? Should develop that into a thing. I like it. One old guy says, Chutkan does not want to be in the same company as the other knee-jerk activist judges. Think that's what it is? Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but she certainly didn't buy it. Rick D is sharing that motion from Judge Chutkan. Thank you, Rick D. Yep, that was the one, right? That's the Chutkan case. Thank you, Rick D, for flagging that one. Glocky says, sleeper election of the year is in Wisconsin in their Supreme Court. If they win, the Republicans lose 2 House seats because of the gerrymandering case that is going to end up before the liberal majority in Wisconsin. If they win, left-wing mega donors are supercharging the high-stakes Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Oh, it's Reid Hoffman again. Look at that guy. Man, these two are basically indistinguishable. It's hard to tell the difference between the two of them. Glocky, surprise, surprise, I didn't see this coming, says GOP starts to balk at the Musk cuts. Republicans are growing uncomfortable with several aspects of Musk's cuts. Don't care. Who are they? We'll run against them in the primaries. Don't care. Londo, deny, deny, deny. Blah, ha, ha, ha. It was a good day. Lots of denying today. Glocky, imagine being a group of Democrat state AGs and being so bad at your job that a federal judge who was on the verge of putting Trump in prison can't even rule in your favor. That's a great way to frame it. Yeah, that's how dumb they are, Chris Mays. He's talking about you. Glocky says, guys, that come back from rough deployments get put on meds like SSRIs. You can't deploy while on them. Meanwhile, the military was playing for sex change operations that require meds for someone's entire life, making that person not deployable because it's a mental illness, says Glocky. Now, they get VA benefits for life while dudes who suffered injuries have to fight for their benefits. Yeah. And how much is it for those operations? It's like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Of course. Thomas Sowell. You will never understand bureaucracies until you understand that for bureaucracies, procedure is everything and outcome is nothing. Glocky says, a political article, I'm terrified. Workers describe the dark mood inside the federal agencies. This meme from SpongeBob says, you have to go into the office and do an 8-hour day. Stop it, Donald. You're scaring them. They don't want to work. Knox is here, defense attorney in Texas. What's up, Knox? Happy Taco Tuesday, all. This story reported from the Babylon Bee. Oh, no, they got into Fort Knox, and there's an audit. It says all the Fort Knox gold was replaced with little sticky notes and IOUs. IOU $5 billion gold bars, signed Hunter Biden. One old guy's opinion says Chutkan does not want to be a negative footnote in judicial history. I think she knows that they're probably going to be reversed. So she's getting on the right side of this one. She will be in citation in a SCOTUS decision and does not want to do this because of Trump and the J6 egg in the face. Yeah, in other words, she learned her lesson when she got slapped down by the Supreme Court the last time around. I think is what you're saying. I'd rather be skiing. Says the Gateway Pundit indicates the Kash vote is happening tonight, as at least 2 others have mentioned here. Let's go Kash. Yeah, and we would have cut to it, except it wasn't the final vote, right? So when the final vote happens, if we're cutting to it, we're cutting to it. Hunter, what's up? Says, thanks, Rob, for always watching the watchers. Thank you, Hunter, for watching with us, man. We do it together. When we combine our eyeballs, the spotlight is bigger than independently or something. It was a very inartful way of saying that, but our eyes combined for a brighter spotlight. There we go. I'd rather be skiing. 10 membos coming in. Thanks for doing that. I'd rather be skiing. Bringing in Lars Corville, Michael Bruno, David Hicks is here, JK. We got Steel Manning, Anthony Bray, Otto is here, Brandon the anime guy, Fet420, and James Hunsinger, gifted membos, courtesy of I'd Rather Be Skiing, who sent this one in too. Says, okay, Cash. Okay, they're going to vote today at 5:30 today to put him on the executive session. So if Dems don't mung it up, he could be voted to confirm tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so Wednesday. I think we listened to something this morning too, I'd Rather Be Skiing. You may have missed it, but I think Mullen said tomorrow, but if they try to muck it up, it'll be Thursday. So either way, it should be happening this week. And thanks for the donos and the membos. One old guy says, all these dumb lawsuits show how much this country needs, or shows how this country's younger generation and lefties need basic lessons in civics to understand how the government should function. Yeah, and the Constitution. I mean, I think they've written that out of the public curriculum so that people aren't educated on how important that stuff is. Just keep them dumb. You are the very best. We got Barry Soy Toro in the house. What's up, Barry Soy Toro? Bringing in 10 new membos. Welcome. Mike Middleton is here. Mark L. We got Ann Donnelly. Splendid Things. Brett DePace. Bill Barker. We got Skulka Gaming. Paul Crandall. Joe K is here. Rebecca Mafia Ma. Gifted membos courtesy of Barry Soy Toro in the house. Thank you, Barry, for bringing in 10 new membos. One old guy's opinions says the lefties don't like all the DOGE big balls. That means son los siguientes. I can't read that in Spanish. I can't read that. One old guy's opinion says cry me a river, cue ball. Cry me a river, cue ball. Sheila Poo says he, Elias, is bragging about his lawfare. He should be careful about what he says out loud. He is, right, Sheila? He is. He's bragging about it. I did this and I did this and I did this. Oh, we know, Mark. We have not forgotten there, bucko. Hey, one old guy's opinions says, listen to Bird Nest Head here. Oh, yeah, that one guy. Yeah, I don't know. He probably thought it made him look like Einstein or something. Hey, Sun Tzu Me says the CNN is not mainstream media. It's redundant media. It's basically state media. I don't know if they were getting paid much. We know Politico was. AP was. All of the Ukraine media was. So it's basically state media, and they all copy and paste anyways. If it's not copying and pasting the actual text of an article, it's copying and pasting the talking points and the policy positions that they regurgitate. Spuds, what's up, Spuds? Says, Rob, since DOGE is based on U.S. digital service, so if you had to use an Obamacare portal or one on the state level, they required all of the same information on individuals as DOGE is potentially may or may not need. So how come what was done over a decade ago is permissible? Hasn't Congress set a precedent by default? Methinks they have no case. I don't think they do. Yeah, they don't. I think Chutkan agreed, and the other judge agreed today too. One old guy says, Elon, big balls. Yeah. Londo, you hit a steak long enough with a hammer, getting the fat out becomes very easy because you'll have like ground steak or like a steak paste, which sounds disgusting. Sheila the Pooh, a million hugs to you. Thank you for bringing in 10 new membos. We got Andy's Big Balls Plumber is here. Wow. Part of the DOGE plumbing team. Good to have you. Casey Holt is here. Boge Joe. We got Lori M. We got Joe Sullivan, Regina Stone, Mitchell J. I'm Too Tweaked is here. Sean Tanner, Chris Howell, all gifted membos courtesy of Sheila Pooh. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in 10 new membos. Londo says, psst, Rob, they are fired. LOL. They were fired. Several of them. Bye. Diana from Florida says, Rob, I may have this info wrong, but Joe from Good Logic, what's up, Joe, says that there is a TRO report which does allow you to appeal. I hope that info got to Trump's team. Well, so I'm not sure exactly what Good Logic is referencing, but what we read today was Hampton Dellinger's response to Trump's appeal of a stay/TRO. So Trump is appealing this. Good Logic may have been referencing the Court of Appeals dissent from Katsas, which said that Trump should be allowed to appeal a TRO when it acts as an injunction, which is what this is. The stay was an injunction from Judge Amy Berman Jackson. So the lower courts call it something, and if they call it something, then you can't appeal that thing. But practically what they call it is not what it is. Okay, it's not different than what Democrats do all the time. Like they say, this person is this gender. You say, wait, what? I'm looking at this person. They're clearly not that gender, clearly. They say, yes, it is. And they treat that person accordingly. And then we all say, they're whacked. Same kind of thing is happening here. Judge Amy Berman Jackson is saying, oh, that's an administrative stay. You say, no, it's not. I can see it. It's an injunction. Look, you can see it's bulging out. You can clearly tell it's an injunction. She says, but I'm going to call it a stay because it makes me feel better. And then they all treat it like a stay. It's like crazy land. So the fact is that thing is an injunction. I can see it right there, Amy. So treat it accordingly. And if it is an injunction, we should be able to appeal that. And we're doing that at the Supreme Court right now. Leonard, Dems would not dare to act like they do if they did not control the media. Yeah, well, and they're losing a lot of this, so they're panicking. We covered this morning, I think. We have stories about Democrats thinking they're missing their moment. They can't figure out how to coalesce. Should they be more progressive or should they be sane? Obviously, they're going the more progressive route. We got Debbie O. Says 10 minutes ago on Truth Social, Trump posted that all Biden-era U.S. attorneys' employment is terminated. Incredible. Bye. Over the past 4 years, says Trump, the Department of Justice has been politicized like never before. Therefore, I have instructed the termination of all remaining Biden-era U.S. attorneys. We must clean house immediately and restore confidence. America's golden age must have a fair justice system that begins today. What a beautiful day it is, my friends. Get the hell out. You're fired. Pack your bags. Get your little photographs of your animals. Throw them in your box and go home. Get out. Get the hell out. Incredible. What a great day, man. I'm just so happy right now. Can we just enjoy this moment for a minute? A moment of silence for the corrupt hacks that are packing up their little cubicles right now. Get out! All right, so amazing. I feel good. Sorry if I blew your eardrums out on that. I'm just so damn excited. All right, Sergeant GPS, thank you for that. Cash got passed. Amazing. Mark Wayne Mullins. Hey, Diana from Florida says, I checked and it's Justia, U.S. Law 65C. 65C. Oh, I see. You're looking at a specific statute is what you were referencing. So I think, yeah, temporary restraining orders can be appealed. Like there's technically exceptions for it, but generally they're not appealed. So thanks for looking it up, Diana, and shout out to Good Logic. What's up? Glocky says you can't fire military members. You can chapter them out or give them a court-martial. So no military members were fired at the nuke departments. It was a bunch of DOD civilians that do a job that was traditionally a military job until someone got the bright idea to bring in contractors into the loop who get paid more and oftentimes screw up their jobs. For instance, my gunner site in my Bradley went out, had to drive back to Fort Hood during gunnery because they wouldn't come out to fix it. Glocky says, I loved the space shuttle and loved watching it when I was a kid, but it was the biggest waste and cost overrun program. It was supposed to be a space truck and have multiple launches a month, but it was complex and expensive and never lived up to what the government proposed and built. But Elon is doing that, like literally happening right now. NASA couldn't figure it out with the space shuttle, but now they did. Ran out of channel names. Says, my mouth to God's ears. Play The View one more time, and I'm never coming back. Well, we're going to have to see what happens. It might come, it might not come, but we don't succumb to terrorist demands here. We play what we want to play. Zipped Up Kits says 6 months as a membo. Made it to 6 months. Woo! 2/3 of the way to a baby. You rock, Rob. Thank you, Zipped Up Kits. I appreciate you being here for 6 months. That's an amazing time. It's great to have you here. Liz says, Liz, very nice, Dono. Thank you for sending this one in. Says, I'm a designer, Joe. Art school, yada, yada. And I've noticed your efforts in your background. Your new sign is great. Try being conservative and Christian in art school. It was fun and a challenge a million years ago. Yeah, Liz, I can understand that. I'm not an artist in really any sense of the term. My Aunt Linda is. Shout out to Aunt Linda. She's amazing. But your boy, not so much. But thank you for noticing the background. Yeah, and we had a conversation about this on our members only stream, and some people feel like it's a little bit too right heavy over here. It's a little bit too much. So maybe we should put some more stuff over here, back over this direction. And we can also change the lights. So we were also having a debate about this. Do we like the white? Do we like the blue? Do we like the red? A little too red. Do we want flashing changes lights? that rotate around from color to color. What do we like? I don't know. It's so complicated. So we're still working on it. It's a work in progress. I appreciate your feedback on it. And so thank you, Liz, for that one. And yeah, I was a conservative. I still am a conservative person in law school. And it was a challenge, man. I remember this. It was like a challenge. They give you hypotheticals and you'd have to pick one side. I'd always pick the one side and the rest of the class would be like, how could you be so callous? They'd be like, shut up. All right. Anyways, thank you, Liz. Very nice of you to send that one in. I appreciate your support. Knox says, Mama Spuds has a butterfly on her shoulder. So this has been a fun thing to follow. So Knox on Locals had a butterfly that landed in her garden, lost a wing, so only has 3 wings. You need 4. And Knox is keeping this butterfly alive, literally feeding it tangerine juice for 9 days. She's lived with me drinking tangerine. Oh, she passed. Oh no, Knox. My baby passed around 1 p.m. today. She lived with me drinking tangerine juice for 9 days. Butterfly has all her wings now. Knox. Well, rest in peace to Butterfly at the Knox household. It was a beautiful journey together, but she's up in butterfly heaven now. Knox, thanks for that. And Knox kept this butterfly alive for 9 days with feeding this butterfly tangerine juice. Not from her nipples, but from a nipple-ish device, probably. I don't know how it worked exactly. Knox will have to educate us on how she did it. But from some device, I don't know how it works. James Knox, thank you for... I genuinely think that there's karmic and universal energy and spiritual balance and harmony and whatever that was that you did there. I don't know how to explain it, but I think there's meaning to it. So thanks for that. And rest in peace to that butterfly. All right. James Anderson. All these Democrats are full of Adam Schiff, the worst kind. Ataraxia says our president just fired all remaining Biden attorneys. Goodbye. So happy about that. Just Rhonda says, anyone want to take bets that McConnell votes no on cash during the final vote? He voted yes to move forward this afternoon. Yeah, probably because he just wanted to go home and go to bed. But yeah, I think you're probably right. Next time he'll vote no because he's McConnell. What's going on? Deluxe Knight says, happy Taco Tuesday. I'll be making my homemade street tacos shortly when I get home. I heard the Washington State Hanford ex-employees are protesting outside over there. Man, tacos are great. It is Taco Tuesday. Enjoy yours, Deluxe Knight. And hopefully those protests simmer down. Uncle Bozy is here. Says, how come female judges use 3 names and the male judges just 2? I don't know. I think it maybe makes them feel more powerful or something. Like Hillary Rodham Clinton. Wow, she's got 3 names. She's so heroic. She represents all women. Hey, See the Veil says, smash that Thor button or the like button would also be great. Thank you for that. See the Veil. Off-Label Podcast says, LMFAO, you're ready to be savage with us now. Mama G, sorry, we're corrupting your son. That's me. You better be careful. My mama will wash both of our mouths out with soap. So be careful. Oh, Gothix is making an appearance soon. Off-Label Podcast. Check it out. It's going to be lit. Hey, ELZ says, Rob, your BBS is illuminating the dark canyons. Big, beautiful spotlight. I think that can mean different things. So just to be clear, is illuminating the dark canyons of injustice, showing the way to escape the prisons of our melancholy and into new vistas of American freedom. Dang, ELZ, that was like poetic. There was like an iambic pentameter cadence to that. It's beautiful. Thank you. Susanna Gullery says, good job, Shibu Inu. Good job, Shibu Inu. I think he's in a jujitsu gi, but I don't know. But I appreciate it, Susanna. Thanks for sending that one in. Hey, Lady Ice is buried in snow. Says, this is from the tail end of this morning's stream. Also, we got another foot of snow since this morning, and we may never, ever get out from Lady Ice. Good to see you, Lady Ice. And I think you were asking about Elon. Let's see if we can come back to that. Tony Hay Munkets gifting 1 membo. Blue Dreamscapes got a membo. Welcome aboard, Tony Hay. Thanks for bringing them in. One Old Guy's Opinion says, first space shuttle was the Enterprise from Star Trek. Yeah, with Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Well, that was the Next Generation. That was the one that I watched. Maybe we need a Zefram Cochrane and a Star Trek Next Generation to make first contact with the Vulcans, if only. Yeah, that would change the course of humanity for sure. Hey, Tortuga Chick says, you need a framed copy of the Constitution under the flag. That's a good idea. Yeah, we're trying to figure out what we can do to fill in this area. It's like I could put a bunch of stuff over there. I think lighting the flag would be good. So I have to figure out how to do that. I have some ideas on that. But yeah, some balance over here. Someone else was saying some firearms might be good. Like an old colonial musket right there. Just have to get one and then I can put it up. But great idea. Thank you, Tortuga. Knox says, all right, this is how she fed the butterfly. I squeezed the juice out on the peonies as the front killed all the pollen plants. What is a peony? She literally climbed up on my finger so we could watch the sunset last night. I completely believe that, Knox, and I don't know what that was. But that's a wild experience. Was that, a loved one joining you? Was that God on your fingertip watching the sunset with you? I don't know. But stuff like that, there's a lot more to that than whatever, having a butterfly join you. And I'm sure you know that, but I'm just, wow, it's kind of weirding me out a little bit. That's pretty cool, Knox. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's okay. Boopsie. I got to think about that one. Boopsie. All right. I missed a lot of this one. What would you say is the best thing you shared today? If you don't mind, thanks. Honestly, we did a whole show. It was great. We read a lot of stuff. But the best thing is that every single U.S. attorney just got fired by President Trump. Happened 10 minutes ago. So that was the best thing for sure. We did a lot of work here today, but nothing beats that one tweet. They're all fired. In all seriousness, Trump won 2 big decisions today out of the D.C. circuit, the district level courts there, not out of the Court of Appeals, but in that circuit. When I say that, it's like that region or those cases. So he won both of those, 2 big victories there. Elon, we defined who he is, and we know what his position is with DOGE. But the big news of the day happened at the tail end. Every U.S. attorney is now fired. So bye. Hey, Jeffrey Adams says FAFO needs to be on your wall. FAFO needs to be back there. Yeah, that's one. What's another suggestion? Could be a possibility. All right. So my friends, thank you for sending those in. Amazing comments, amazing donos. Very much appreciative of your support. Again, couldn't do it without you. Thank you and welcome to our new members who joined us. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only stream. 9 a.m. Arizona time, 11 Eastern. We'll see you over there. Let's say hello to our friends on X before we wrap it up for the day. Fred Pedamonte says, it's rich hearing Chutkan talk about Musk not being appointed by the president or confirmed by the Senate. She spent 10 months granting Jack Smith's every single motion he put forward and denying almost every Trump motion as well. Minnie Tika is sharing our links over on the Rumbles. We're grateful for that. Charles Graham says they're going to lose again and again and again. Spudman says, Spudman doesn't like watching it on X, which I can understand that. So Spudman, go over to YouTube or to Rumble and subscribe over there. Hey, Jody says, no breaks. Keep the hammer down. God bless y'all. What's up, 80 Ranny? Shadow Band is here with the DOGE link, with the DOGE emblem. Looking good over there, Shadow Band. And so those are our friends on X. You can follow us on X at Rob Govea ESQ. We post a bunch of our stuff over there as well. And we'd love to see you over there. Deluxe Knight says, I believe they are the employees that the Washington case was referring to for the nuclear safety. I live within 25 miles of the Hanford site. 25 miles of the Hanford site from Deluxe Knight. Yeah, I'm not sure what the details are on that, but you fire people, you bring them back. Uncle Bozy says, Rob, thanks for cleaning up our crap language when you read our comments. Yeah, I try. Sometimes I slip up a little bit on those, but I think we try our best here. Let's see what Lady Ice's comment was from this morning, if I can pull that up real quick. And then we're retiring, going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. Lady Ice says, what do you think Elon Musk is? He's a billionaire, not a miracle with... Oh, wait, he is a miracle worker. Yeah, he is an impressive dude. No doubt about that, Lady Ice. Thank you for sending that one in. And my friends, I do believe that is about where we will leave it on the day. Tony DeMarco says, speaking of video games, lately I've been playing Sniper Ghost Warrior. Here's a 14-second clip of me fighting waste, fraud, and abuse. Oh, that sounds fun. Okay, we'll look at that on Locals. Former says, how many of Trump's DOJ attorneys did Biden fire? Good question. Yeah, good question from our Locals friends. That's where we're going right now. And we'd love to see you over there watching thewatchers.locals.com. Come on over and join us. We have a great community there. Hey, M. Martin says, Constitutional Republic, we the people. Good to see you, M. Martin. Thanks for being here for 4 months. Bonnie's leaving. See you, Bonnie. Have a great night. We'll see you later. And my friends, that is it for us. We're going to leave it there. We're going over to Locals to hang out, to debrief a little bit. We'd love to see you come join us watching thewatchers.locals.com. Links in the description below. Come and join us. Otherwise, my friends, we'll wrap it up. I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. K Bean in the house, Donut. We got Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek modding the fort down for us, keeping things so nice and beautiful around here. We appreciate that. But that is it for us on the day. Tomorrow, it's going to be Wednesday. We're going to be jamming. Lots of updates, I'm sure, and we can't wait to get into it with you. So in order to do that appropriately, tomorrow, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.